We begin here in Japan with the latest on the coronavirus. The government has officially decided to end the state of emergency for Tokyo, Osaka, and 7 other prefectures as scheduled on Sunday. Still, strict antivirus measures will continue for most of the areas for another 3 weeks.
New infections across the country have been declining since mid-May. The number of seriously ill patients has also been on the decline. The strain on the medical system has been steadily easing. However, in some areas, the pace of decline in new cases has flatlined, and there are concerns of possible rebounds. If there are any signs of potential resurgence of infections or strain on the medical systems, we will respond promptly and take stronger measures. We'll continue to take thorough preventive measures and press ahead with the vaccination rollout.
Tokyo, Osaka, and 8 other prefectures are currently under the emergency declaration. Okinawa will be the only prefecture to remain under the declaration because the medical system there is still under pressure. Strict measures will continue for most of the areas until July 11th. The government will still ask bars and restaurants to close by 8 p.m., but they can serve alcohol till 7 p.m. as long as they follow anti-infection protocols. The government will maintain the capacity limit for large events in those prefectures at 5,000. An attendance cap will likely remain after July 11th, but officials are considering raising it to 10,000 people. When it comes to the approaching Tokyo Games, the government will consult with the organizing committee and other parties on whether domestic spectators should be allowed and what the cap should be for those events. The decision is expected by the end of this month. The Olympics is scheduled to kick off on July 23rd. In a news conference on Thursday evening, the Prime Minister reiterated his commitment to ensuring a safe Games.
As we face the grave challenge of the coronavirus pandemic, it is all the more important for Japan to signal to the world that we can unite our efforts and wisdom to overcome this hardship.
Officials here in Tokyo confirmed 452 new cases on Thursday. Experts are concerned about the possible rapid spread of more infectious variants. They also warn in the capital the coronavirus is now most common among people in their 20s who are socially active.
The situation is still unpredictable. We must continue to do all we can to contain infections and prevent a rebound in new cases.
Across the nation, health authorities confirmed more than 1,500 new cases on Thursday. Turning now to the latest on a long-simmering trade row over Chinese tariffs on steel. Beijing has criticized Tokyo for complaining to the World Trade Organization about the taxes.
Japan's filing of a complaint is regrettable, and China will take appropriate measures in accordance with the WTO's dispute settlement process.
China slapped additional levies of up to nearly 30% on some Japanese stainless steel products in 2019. It said prices were unfairly low, hurting local producers. Gao defended the tariffs on Thursday, saying they followed an investigation and calls from domestic companies. Japan's government took the case to the WTO last week. It said the taxes break international trade rules. According to WTO regulations, the countries must hold bilateral talks. If they cannot reach an agreement, Japan can request a hearing at a panel. Thailand is accelerating efforts to revive its core tourism industry, which has been dealt a heavy blow by the coronavirus pandemic. The Prime Minister says he wants to ease travel restrictions by mid-October. Prayut Chan-o-cha announced the plan on Wednesday to accept fully vaccinated overseas travelers without quarantine within the next 120 days.
We cannot wait for a time when everyone is fully vaccinated with 2 shots to open the country, or for when the world is free of the virus. I think it's time to accept some risks.
Thailand has been struggling since March to contain a 3rd wave of infections. It's logged 2,000 to 3,000 new cases each day for the past several weeks. People in Bangkok have mixed feelings about the plan.
If we can reopen the country, I think it will be good. We'll have foreign visitors. The economy is suffering. The streets are empty.
The pandemic situation in the country is not improving. I don't think it's a good time to reopen the country in just 120 days.
As of Tuesday, only 2.6% of the Thai population had been fully vaccinated. Prayut says he'll make sure 75% will have at least one shot by early October. Myanmar's military continues its crackdown as armed civilians face off against security forces in many places. A village in the country's central region was reportedly burned down, and residents are blaming the military. Local media quoted them as saying the security forces set fire to about 200 houses on Tuesday. They say this came after clashes occurred. Many villagers had fled, but some died in fires. The National Unity Government, set up by ousted lawmakers, announced it condemns such acts of arson in the strongest possible terms. State-run TV reported on Wednesday night armed terrorists had attacked security forces with light weapons. It added the terrorists set the fires, which spread through the village, fanned by strong winds. A local human rights group says 865 people have been killed since the coup on February 1st. The United Nations is urging an end to the fighting, which has forced many people to evacuate their hometowns. Police in Hong Kong have arrested 5 executives of a pro-democracy newspaper owned by media tycoon and Beijing critic Jimmy Lai. Authorities allege the outlet's reports have violated China's national security law imposed on the territory. About 500 police officers raided the headquarters of Apple Daily on Thursday morning. It's a tabloid known for its critical stance on China. Police confirmed they arrested the executives on suspicion of collusion with a foreign country or with external elements to endanger national security. They said Apple Daily called on foreign organizations to impose sanctions on Hong Kong and China more than 30 times in their articles. The newspaper and other Hong Kong media reported chief editor Ryan Law was among those arrested. Police also froze company-related assets worth around $2.3 million. Apple Daily founder Jimmy Lai is serving a prison sentence for his involvement in unauthorized assemblies in 2019. Hong Kong's police chief has repeatedly criticized the paper, accusing it of inciting hatred in society with false reports. British Foreign Secretary Dominic Raab has weighed in, calling the arrest and raid an example of Beijing using the national security law to target dissenting voices. In other news, the nominee to serve as the Pentagon's top advisor on the Indo-Pacific has highlighted his focus on China. Eli Ratner shared his views on preventing contingencies involving Taiwan. He said the U.S. should boost its deterrent capabilities and attach importance to cooperation with allies. Ratner is President Joe Biden's nominee for Assistant Secretary of Defense for Indo-Pacific Security Affairs. He spoke Wednesday at a Senate committee hearing. He said if he is confirmed, his top priority will be dealing with China. He repeatedly referred to Taiwan.
The People's Republic of China has yet to renounce the use of force against Taiwan. In the absence of the United States to impose sufficient cost and denial capability, I think there is a potential that they would use aggression against Taiwan to achieve their political aims.
Ratner said the United States must continue pursuing a free and open Indo-Pacific. He said it should, meanwhile, invest in its network of allies and partners throughout the region, including Taiwan. Ratner is an expert on China. He was in charge of work at the Pentagon to review U.S. strategy for China following Biden's inauguration. The Chinese government has dismissed the U.S. media report warning of a radiological threat at a nuclear plant. The CNN report focused on the Taishan plant in the southern province of Guangdong. It's a joint venture between French power giant EDF and China. CNN said the French company Framatome, which is an EDF subsidiary involved in operations, had warned of an imminent radiological threat in a letter sent to the U.S. government. China's nuclear safety watchdog, the Ministry of Ecology and Environment, denied the claim in a statement issued on Wednesday. But it did admit about 5 fuel rods out of more than 60,000 at its number 1 reactor were damaged. The statement added environmental monitoring near the plant found no abnormal parameters, confirming no leak had occurred. EDF said it was examining the matter. It added the nuclear plant had treated and released radioactive gases into the atmosphere in accordance with regulations. A Chinese spaceship carrying 3 astronauts has docked at an unfinished station the country is now constructing. China's space authorities say their spacecraft Shenzhou 12 lifted off Thursday morning from northwestern China and successfully docked before 4 p.m. local time. The 3 astronauts on board are former Air Force pilots. They'll conduct 2 spacewalks during their 3 months on Tianhe, the module that have become the living quarters on the station. The trio are the first Chinese astronauts to launch into space in about 5 years, and they'll be the first to stay there for construction work. China aims to complete its space station next year. It launched the core module in April and plans to send up more personnel and cargo. Switching gears now to the weather, prolonged scorching conditions are leading to power cuts in parts of the United States. Our meteorologist John Thuneau has more on the situation in our World Weather Report.
Hello, we've been talking about the real heat problem taking place over into the western United States. High pressure has been keeping things relatively dry, and we're still seeing some impacts from that. Here's a look at some video coming out from the region as much of the southwestern United States has been experiencing record-breaking heat in recent weeks. High temperatures increasing the drought situation, making it worse, and also increasing the chance of wildfires. On top of these conditions, it is putting some pretty high pressure on the power supply. Officials are asking residents to avoid using large electric appliances until the demand decreases. And that is an issue because folks are trying to use more of the air conditioning to try to keep cool. That only makes things much more difficult when it comes to the power situation. But high pressure is still in place, keeping things dry and hot. And so that's going to continue as we go throughout the rest of this week. Meanwhile, in the central United States, we have a low pressure system that's generating a lot of energy. As we go through today on Thursday, we're looking at the possibility of strong to severe thunderstorms. We do have a pretty elevated risk of these strong thunderstorms in the region. So make sure you're paying attention to the situation. We go into Friday, the rain extends over past Chicago, northeast into Toronto, 31 in Denver, staying dry and hot down toward Oklahoma and Texas as we go through Friday. Keeping an eye on the monsoon situation, we are seeing plenty of rain taking place into Nepal, Bhutan, and also into northeastern areas of India. Heavy rain will likely continue into the region, and also seeing extra surge of moisture into portions of Myanmar. And so we're looking at the possibility of seeing up to 300 millimeters of precipitation, and that could lead to some flooding problems, and so be on the lookout for that as we go throughout the next few days. East Asia, seeing a low pressure system coming out of northeastern China and making its way toward the east with the cold front, so that's going to increase the chance for some rain as we head into the weekend for Japan.
In Hong Kong, police raid the pro-democracy newspaper Apple Daily, seizing reporters' notes and arresting 5 media officials. American lawmakers vote to make June 19th a federal holiday, marking the day the last enslaved people were freed at the end of the U.S. Civil War. In Ivory Coast, supporters of former President Laurent Gbagbo clash with police after being blocked from welcoming him at Abidjan's airport. And state media report a Chinese spaceship with a crew of 3 has linked with China's Tianhe space station for a 3-month stay.
The United States has called on Hong Kong authorities to stop targeting the free media after police raided the pro-democracy outlet Apple Daily and arrested 5 executives. The US State Department says the raid undermined the city's credibility. With just over a month until the Tokyo Olympics, Japan says it's lifting its coronavirus state of emergency this weekend. The Prime Minister urged people to watch the Olympics from home to prevent the spread of infections. One of the pioneers of Africa's liberation era, Kenneth Kaunda, has died in Zambia. He was 97. After decades of one-party rule, Mr. Kaunda won praise in 1991 for stepping down following an election defeat. And fans watching the Denmark-Belgium match at the Euros have paid tribute to Christian Eriksen, the midfielder who collapsed during a match last Saturday.